On today's episode of the CLS Experience, we have a very delightful treat. She's a lifestyle, fitness, and business expert, motivational speaker, podcaster, and a best-selling author. No big deal. She's well known for creating a plethora of popular fitness programs, and she has authored several books on health and fitness, including Push and the 131 Method, just to name a few. She has sold more than 10 million fitness DVDs on networks, including QVC, and she currently holds the Guinness Book of World Records title for the most fitness videos. Big facts. Together, her and her husband and business partner, Bret, have built and sold several multi-million-dollar lifestyle companies and helped countless people do the same. She's just a juggernaut in all facets of life and a terrific mother and wife. Please welcome the energetic, dynamic, and passionate, the beautiful and abundant Chalene Johnson. How you doing, Chalene?
Well, gosh, with that introduction, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it.
We were having so much fun before we hit record. We were chatting and so forth. So much alignment here. I'm really excited. For our listeners, we're about 5 million now. In case you're not familiar, my best suggestion is do a deep dive, play catch up, do all the things. What I think is most valuable today is we just have an unbelievable conversation. Before we dive in, we're going to get a little crazy. You ready for me?
Okay. I'm ready for you.
Chalene, what is your superpower?
Well, I listened to several episodes of your show, so I knew this was coming. My superpower for me, because I thought about it, my superpower for me, meaning like how I serve myself, is belief in myself. Like absolutely unafraid to fail because it'll work out. My superpower that I think serves others is I believe I am a gifted teacher.
I really
I like
just
to
love
take
you.
very complicated things and simplify them. I might not be able to make them easy, but I can simplify the process.
I already love you. So there's that. I love that you just said your superpower for yourself is self-belief,
Yeah.
because I think people always ask me, like, wait, how did you pivot? No following, no connections with such great success. Like, weren't you scared? This, that, the other thing. One thing that comes to mind that I don't really talk about probably enough is just an unwavering self-belief. And it's not a cocky thing, right? And I know faith is very important to you in relationship with God, but just a belief, like it's all going to work out. And you're resourceful and creative and determined enough that if you did get knocked down, you'll figure out what didn't work and relentlessly make it work the next time around, right?
Everything is, as you know, an experience, right? So I never worry about every failure is just like an experience. And the more experiences we have, the better. So I don't even think of them as failures, but just like, oh, okay, well, that was something interesting I'll later be able to tell on a podcast, you know? So yeah, I think that it's something that you can learn to do. I think we pick up a lot of our cues from our caregivers, our parents, and when they hit a brick wall and then stop, then you realize or think to yourself, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do. But you don't. You can change the way that you view experiences.
Yeah. And also, like, people hold on to the past sometimes, right?
Hmm.
You can't change the past, but you could change the meaning you give it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that is so true. Like, perspective is everything. Understanding that how you put things in perspective and how you respond to whatever has happened is what matters. It's not really even the thing that
Yeah,
matters.
I couldn't agree more. There's so many places we could take this conversation. Of course, I want to hit some of your greatest hits because I think they'll be so valuable today. But straight off the cuff, I just wanted to ask you, with all the cool, exciting, dynamic things that you have going on right now,
Uh-huh.
what are you most excited about right now?
That's a good question.
Where do I
I
begin,
never look,
right?
yeah, I never look very far into the future, which I think surprises people. I used to, but then when I would get there, it didn't ever look exactly as I thought. So now I'm always excited about what's happening right now. I try not to look too far ahead. I really do try to stay as much in the present moment as possible. So at the moment, what that means is I'm like really excited about the things I've been doing on the podcast, which is interesting because I've been doing that since 2012. And
Really?
yeah, we've got like, I don't know, 95 million downloads or
No
something
big deal.
crazy. But because of the amount of time that we've been there, that so much of success is just being persistent, sticking to it, not quitting. The
Compounded.
people you look at, like who are OGs, like to hear, like, I've sold 10 million exercise DVDs. Yeah, but I was also in fitness for 20 years. So much of success is just don't quit, just keep crawling. You don't have to sprint. It is a marathon. I know you're a marathoner. So to use that analogy. And for me right now with the podcast, I just love this freaking medium. I love being in someone's ear. I love being able to take our past experiences and pains and use them to help somebody else avoid those things. I think this next generation, like to think of the freaking things that we've learned on podcasts that have changed my life, have made helped me to make millions, like from learning on someone's podcast for freaking free. You know, I mean, I'm not saying that people shouldn't go to school, but like the best education I've ever gotten is listening to great podcasts.
I would have to agree. It's so funny because we have our book coming out in August, my first one. I'm really excited about it. And one of the chapters, I never even talked about this, is education. And I
Wow.
did go to college, but I would be the first to say right now that depending upon what you want to do, you don't have to go to
Right.
college because of the education involved in podcasts, books, YouTube, Google, and all that stuff. And if you're willing to hyper focus, you could really figure anything out.
I think college is fantastic for learning to deal with different people, to learn how to focus, for me anyways, to be away from your parents, to figure out how to make it on your own, to
That was the biggest thing to
have
me.
deadlines, tests, all those things, but and obviously there are some professions where you do have to have a degree. But today I think, and this is controversial, but I think one of the riskiest things you could do is to assume that getting good grades, getting into a good college, and getting a good job is safe, because that's about the riskiest mindset you could have. It's a great stream of income, but you should have multiple.
Mm, love that. And also like entrepreneurship or building a personal brand, like those are yours. Nobody could essentially take that away from you.
Yeah, amen. Absolutely. And that's really, I would say, one of the most important things I've learned about my own entrepreneurial journey. And the thing that I want anyone who is an entrepreneur to take away is that it's so important that you brand you, because what you're into right now, the likelihood that you're going to be into it 5 or even 10 years from now is very low, but you will still be you. And once people fall in love with you because they know, like, and trust you, they really trust you, that's the most important value and connection you can have with people. Then no matter what you're doing, people know, oh, I don't have to worry about it because this person's legit. I believe in their integrity. I know that I can trust them. And it's a wonderful thing for me. Like when I'll have someone become a new customer and they'll say, I've been following you for 15 years. And this is the first thing I've ever bought from you. Like I've consumed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of content. And this is the first $19 thing I've ever purchased from you. And I'm like, that's awesome.
Why did it take them so long?
I don't know. I guess, that's just the thing. You just have to keep showing up. And I think a lot of people believe, I don't need that tool. I can figure it out myself, or I don't need that thing. That thing is for somebody special. Like a lot of what I teach, what I sell is marketing and business, right? Like, so my son and I own a business together. We teach people Instagram. My husband and I own an academy that teaches people how to start a business from scratch. And I think I know this to be true, that there's, probably 90% of my audience follows me and thinks, I'd love to do that, but I don't have what it takes. So it might take them 12 years to get to or 15 years to get to the point where they're like, but maybe I do.
Yeah.
And I trust her and I'm going to try it.
And as you continue to add value, and as I like to say now that what I've discovered is adding value gets you rich. It's not about the money for me and you, but as you continue to just focus on adding value and extending
Mhm.
your reach and making connections, money's going to come, whether it's
Yeah.
now or 9 years later from that $9 cassette tape, whatever the case may be.
And be as real as possible. I know everybody talks about that. Everyone says they're like authentic, and it's become a buzzword that doesn't actually translate for some people. Like there's a lot of people say that they're authentic and real, and I'm like, but you're not. You know what I mean?
Wait,
But
let's unpack that for a second.
what's that?
Let's unpack that for a
Yeah.
second. Is when I reinvented myself, the one promise or guarantee that I could make was that for the first time in my life, I would really show up as me, real, raw, organic, authentic, weird, strange. And if God forbid I failed, which I knew I wouldn't, because you and I have similar mentalities, at least I would fail being myself, because I had been a people pleaser and so forth. And
Mm.
ironically enough, when I started to show up as really me, the world began to see me. And I'm not for everybody, and I don't even want to be, but life will kind of act as a true, authentic filter, and the wrong people will gravitate away, and the right people will gravitate towards you. But
Can
you
you
still,
give me an example of, now I'm interviewing you, but can
yeah,
you give me an example of one of the things that you used to do that it felt inauthentic and it just wasn't you?
saying yes to something that I didn't really want to do.
Mm.
You call that boundaries of being authentic. I think they maybe fall somewhere in the middle.
Mhm.
Um, but and
How
also,
about personality wise?
yeah, great one. So I'm really strange. Like for example, we have a community, we have a membership. There's 500 people in there right now, and when I get a haircut, I call it a fresh hairpiece. And my mom's like, Craig, you got to stop saying that. People are gonna think you're wearing a hairpiece. I'm like, I don't care. That's just me. And people love now that like they hashtag it and it's
Oh,
catching.
that's
That
great.
wasn't even my intention. I'm
Yes.
just a strange cat, and now I'm having fun with it, and I'm not afraid to say some of the things. And ironically enough, that's what people end up loving and sharing, so to speak. So that was one example that came to mind. It's calling my haircut a hairpiece.
I love it. That's so good. This is a new wig.
That's awesome. But so many people they say, "Oh, well, I just want to be authentic," but you have a feeling that they're not. What are some
Yeah.
of the ways that you see that someone's not really in congruency with what they're saying?
So obvious that it bugs me. It's so obvious that it like gets under my skin that other people freaking fall for it. I'm like, this is the phoniest effort I've ever seen. Like, it's just little things, the way they show up on social. I'm like, no one talks like that. This is like a voice you're putting on because you're on camera, but it's so weird. Like, you don't talk to your friends like this. That's inauthentic. It's the stuff that people put on their social, and you actually know them, and you're like, this is so bogus. It's the person who's teaching a money mindset course, but they're sleeping on someone's couch and they owe that person $5,000. Like, it just drives me. It's just because you can sound good and confident on camera does not make you authentic. Being authentic means you're just being honest. You're being honest with yourself and you're being honest with the world. And the more you do that, yes, the more polarizing you'll be, but also the more you're going to attract the kind of people who are looking for someone who's like you.
It's so funny because I just got like a glimpse of like people, oh, I'm teaching a money mindset course, right? And meanwhile, they're sleeping on their friend's couch.
No,
But
absolutely.
yeah,
It just made me laugh. What was that social media app that took off, exploded for a minute during the pandemic?
TikTok.
No, no, no. It was just all voice.
Oh,
Clubhouse.
Clubhouse. Yes.
Clubhouse was the epitome of phony BS. Like every single person whose voice would get on there, they'd be like, I'm an 8-figure earner. I'm like, is this just the thing to say? Because y'all are not 8-figure earners sitting in your closet on Clubhouse all day. No, you're not.
I'm dying right now because you just brought me back to the pit. I was just getting up and running. And I remember like Clubhouse was the perfect tool at the perfect time because you can do anything else, but right away. I mean, yeah, I'm an 8-figure earner and they're in their pajamas in the parents' basement. So true. And social media, the right relationship with it, obviously it's a great tool, but it also gives a lot of inauthentic people a voice. But I think me and you can really navigate and sniff out the fluff.
Yeah, I think podcasts are one of the ways, and long form content is going
Mhm.
to, if I'm predicting the future, and I study social media a ton because I think social media is a study of social behavior.
Ooh, love
I
that.
think that we're going to see a real pushback against short form video, 15
Good.
seconds, 10 seconds. Yeah, I think we all realize it's making us feel crazy, that our attention feels splintered, that we're never really getting to know someone. If I'm watching a 5-second video of you making faces and pointing at different words on the screen, what do I know about you? Nothing.
Nothing.
And what did I get from that? Nothing, because you just copied like 25 other people or 25,000 other people who just
So
did that.
true.
And I think that we're craving connection. We're
Mhm.
craving things to slow down. Everyone wants to follow fewer people. Everyone wants to consume less. And I feel like we want to, like, it's this tug and pull, right? It's like I can't put my phone down at night because I'm on TikTok, but also I realize like it's hurting my brain and I want something of significance. I want to tune in and listen to like two people like we are talking right now, and I want to hear this conversation. I want to think about it and I want to process some thoughts, and I don't want to feel rushed. And I think a lot of these short form videos in social media content makes us feel so chaotic and hurried and rushed, and like we should be doing more faster, and it doesn't feel good. So we're going to, tap into, like, nobody wants to not feel good. We're going to start tapping into those things that make us feel better, and I think that's long form content.
Well, I can personally say that for me it is. Like a conversation like this is what gets me off. Like I get to find out about you and like really learn something and pull back some layers. And I never really the short form is like I agree with you. To be honest, with you, I didn't really articulate it until you just kind of pointed out, like, how can you really know someone with a 15-minute trend, right? With like a specific song. It's
Yeah,
so
yeah.
true. I hope they go back to the long form. I'm not scared of that.
Yeah, no, I think we are. If you look at what TikTok is pushing out right now and Instagram Reels, they are longer. So right now, the For You page on TikTok, uh, it's everything is. Take a look at your TikToks. They're no longer 3 and 5 seconds like they used to be. Now
Mm,
they're a minute 40. You're seeing TikToks are over a minute long on your For You page. Double check my science tonight before you fall asleep.
done.
Right. And I think, here's the other thing that's really interesting. So you're you've got to look at your stats. This is your business, or you've got to reach more people. So you're always looking at like, okay, how can we rank? How can we do better? And I'm a student of this stuff. I look at my podcast. I look at my podcast rankings, YouTube, etc. And my team keeps saying, we've got to look at the percentage of content that's consumed. I'm like, okay. But I asked ChatGPT recently to run a report for me on the data of the top ranking podcasts in every category, what they have in common, every category over the last 2 years. And you're going to be shocked when I tell you what they have in common.
Can't wait to find out.
They're all over an hour and 15 minutes.
That does shock me.
Yeah. So it's, if you look social media platforms, what's their job is to keep people on the platform. So why would they be rewarding a show that's a 5 minute daily? Yeah, I get 100% consumption, but I'm not keeping people on the platform longer. So I sometimes think those stats they're just what Apple puts out or YouTube puts out, etc. But if you look at human behavior, and if you really look at what is doing the best in social media, that's not an algorithm. The algorithm is a reflection of what we want, we the consumer.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. First of all, you have so much depth. This is awesome. There's so many cool things I want to ask you, but real quick, you mentioned
Yeah.
ChatGPT there.
Yeah.
AI. Everybody has an opinion. Just real quickly off the cuff. What are your thoughts on that?
Part of it freaks me out and also excites me. Like I have a real flair for risk and adrenaline. Like anything that's like exciting gets me excited, even though I know that there's a lot of potential downside. So let me tell you a quick story.
Please.
Friend of mine is writing a book for a I don't want to say the name of the company, but it's a highly scientific publication. And he's been asked to co-author this book with one of the leading scientists in this area. And he is not a scientist, but happens to be very knowledgeable in this one area. And so he's co-authoring this book. And so he was, as would anyone who's writing a book, puts it in ChatGPT to give him research and analysis on one particular feature or one particular thing that this animal does. And he says, and cite the research specifically. So, got all that information, turned it into the scientific publication, and they came back to him and said, these aren't real publications. These are fictional. And this animal actually doesn't do that. And that's because ChatGPT is not it's not Google. It has no idea like what's authentic, what's real, what's factual. All it's doing is writing. It's a predictive model. So it's predicting what he wanted it to say, but it's not necessarily pulling in facts. For that reason, that's kind of scary.
I would have to agree. And look, the first word, artificial.
Yeah.
It's crazy to see what they could do now. I'm a bit old school, but I also acknowledge that I have to get out of my own way, right? And figure out how to incorporate it to be an asset. But I agree with you. Some of the things just it's a little freaky. Like I like human connection. Like I
I do
like
too, but I also like saving money and saving time.
true.
Right. And so and this might not be very popular, but I'll just say it because it's the truth. We were able to let go of 2 consultants because of ChatGPT and get a faster, better output using ChatGPT for some of the things that we do in our business that just AI can do better. Like my voice, I can say, I can type in or I can paste in a podcast, right? Which is like an hour and 15 minutes long or whatever. And I can ask ChatGPT to write a 500 word blog based on the way that I write. And it comes up with phrases where I'm like, that did I write this? Like, it's so good. Whereas if I had somebody else condense it and do that, a human do that for me, it would have a lot of their own interpretation.
Right.
And I'd spend a lot more time revising it.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah. Fair enough.
Fascinating. We'll
I
see.
would I would have to agree. I was doing a lot of homework on you for many reasons. Number one, I want to show this conversation the respect it deserves, but really, I admire you so much. And one of the things that you often talk about is growing up, your upbringing, your
Uh-huh.
parents had a really positive attitude. I know your dad was an entrepreneur and your mom was his biggest fan, and so forth. But you talk about having a mindset of abundance, similar to authentic abundance gets thrown out a lot these days.
Mm.
But
Hmm.
you grew up with that, which I think is awesome. And I'm not surprised just getting to connect with you now and how energetic and upbeat you are. It's contagious. When you think of a mindset of abundance, what does that mean to you?
It just, you constantly believe that, first of all, you are abundantly blessed. You just cannot believe how lucky you are. Not lucky, but like how many blessings you have. And you know more are coming. It's just this knowing that you will always have what you need, more than what you need. It's a it's a mindset of generosity. It's not keeping score. It's
Mm,
just knowing that the universe is going to work in your favor. The right people are going to find you. You're going to find the right people. You will always have more than what you need, and more is always coming.
yeah, I like
Whatever
to
more is, whether it's more love, more money, more opportunities, more health, more lessons. It's just more.
everything.
We had a friend staying with us recently who we've been friends with since college. And when he left, I thought to myself, what is it that left me sad when he
Mm,
left? And I was like, what left me sad is we had a few conversations where I could tell it's just he could have so much more, but he doesn't expect it. And he's just okay with the definition of mediocrity, like just everything is just as is fine, so there's no desire to grow and to try new things and to
yeah,
experience new things. But he's got the more potential than anybody I know that's unfulfilled. You know what I mean? And so I was like, why does that make me sad? Should it make me sad? Like, then I was really thinking about, because that's something I'm working on in therapy right now, is that the feeling of sadness, how I don't like I reject that feeling for the most part. It's a feeling I don't connect with. But because my therapist gave me the assignment this week of paying attention to moments when I felt sad, I wrote that down. Like, why did it make me sad? Why should I care? Like, maybe he's happy, but I just don't think that he is.
there's so many similarities here. I have to ask you, when is your birthday?
Groundhog's Day, February 2nd.
Okay. Because
I don't know how much I believe in any of that. I mean, I do think like the stars and all that stuff kind of must matter, because my husband and I are like, we're 4 days apart and we are so different.
really,
Oh my God, yes.
but
Yeah, I think
there's
it's your.
so much energy here. Take on people's energy a lot.
Yeah,
And you get sad about, like, you feel bad for people when someone else be like, why do you feel bad for them? They don't feel bad for themselves, but for some reason you think that there's more out there for them and they just don't see it. And that makes you,
yeah, that does make me sad. Like, not on a deep grief kind of level.
yeah.
But no, sadness is I don't normally feel sad in my own life, things that happen to me, unless it's legitimately something I should be grieving, like a death. But things that make other people sad don't make me sad. And so, I started working with a new therapist. He's like, what do you want to work on? I'm like, well, I don't know if I don't know, but like, I'm just kind of curious, am I limiting myself in some way if I don't like to feel sad, and I don't feel sad. I walk through it very, very fast. So we're kind of at this place where we're almost butting heads, where I'm like, I'm not so sure I need to change this. I'm not so sure it's a bad thing. I'm not so sure that I'm repressing it. I just think I move through it really fast. And maybe that's a good thing.
That, what's wrong with that?
Well, I don't know. Apparently there's lots of he said to me last week, you have to feel sadness to truly let go of something and say goodbye, and to move on and fully accept something else. I'm like, I don't know.
I heard that in order to heal it, you have to feel it.
Mm, yeah. So anyways, enough about therapy.
Yeah.
Abundance to me is it's a very important mindset
There's more than enough.
because yes, it just helps you to be far more content and happy no matter where you are and excited because like the example that I just gave you, he may be content where he's at, but I asked him, I'm like, so what are you excited about, what are you looking forward to? And he's like, nothing really. And I was like, well, gosh, I mean, when you are if you don't have something to look forward to, then schedule it, plan it, create it. I always have to have something I'm looking forward to,
Same.
even if it's going out to dinner tonight. You know what I mean? Like that's what
Movie.
gets me through my workouts. That's what gets me through my tough moments. That's what's exciting. That's what puts you in a good mood and gives you energy, is always having something to look forward to.
It's so funny. I'm exactly the same way. I mean, something as simple as like me and my fiance, I ran the Brooklyn Half Marathon this weekend, and we were
Oh,
seeing.
wow.
Yeah, thank you. I like to challenge myself.
Gosh. What was your time?
I ran well. I ran 1 hour 31 minutes. Came out to
Oh my God.
7 minutes and 1 second pace. To be honest with you, all I was thinking about is I can't believe I didn't get sub 7, but I'll take it. I'll,
See,
yeah, I know. I know.
that is amazing.
Thank you. But we were seeing a movie that night, and I kept thinking, like, when I was running, beating myself into the ground and hit my, I was like, I can't wait. I got to earn this. Then we get to eat some sushi, maybe a glass of tequila, and go to the movies. And something as simple as that just keeps you
Yes.
excited, uplifted.
Oh yeah, yeah. Every workout video I ever filmed, like when I need that second little boost of energy, I would think about something I was really excited about. Sometimes it was a meal, but sometimes it was like a vacation, or like, that's what physical energy is, being excited about the future.
Yeah. And oh, by the way, for our listeners, Charlene knows a thing or two about fitness. I know
Something, something.
most people probably associate you with that, which is exactly why I didn't want to focus on that today.
Well, that's okay. It's part of my journey. It's I've come to terms and accepted it and have gratitude for the fact that if it weren't for that opportunity, I wouldn't be in millions of people's homes. Like, what an incredible thing to have the opportunity to spend time with someone in their home while they're on a transformative journey. And I've been given that opportunity, and even though I have had to go through a process of learning to come to terms with the whole fitness thing, because I had a love-hate relationship with consumer fitness. I still love fitness, so, like, I work out every day, but consumer fitness did a number on me, and I had to then put the experiences I had in perspective with the opportunities that it gave me, and the incredible gratitude that I have for the many people who came to trust me, came to know me, and like I said, spent hours watching me on a video in their homes while they're transforming themselves. It's a pretty cool thing.
It's a very cool thing. I'm just curious, like,
Yeah.
why was that something that you had to work on or overcome?
Because it it was a negative transformation for myself. It was really unhealthy. But that was my own journey, like getting into consumer fitness videos was never my intention. I, was an entrepreneur and did lots of different businesses. It just happened to be this one idea that I had for a fitness program really took off, and we turned it into a certification company, certified fitness instructors all around the globe, started a fitness apparel company that caught the attention of infomercial companies, consumer videos. I started doing consumer videos, and that was a whole new world. Then I was the product. I wasn't the person marketing things. I became the product. And I'd never been in that situation before. I'd never had any body issues, or I never had any negative thoughts about my weight or my body until I got into consumer fitness videos. And then just the experience of being on set, the the demands to get leaner, to get thinner, to be more fit, the demands from producers, directors, consumers, the public, you
Yeah.
know, it just got into my head. And there was a point at which, speaking of authenticity, I was exercising at this point like 4 hours a day to get ready for this exercise video series that we were going to be selling this program. And I'm working out a minimum of 4 hours a day, eating very, very, very little, all of like very macroed portions of protein and minimal amount of water so that my body would look, as lean and shredded as possible. And I'm looking into the camera and I'm reading the teleprompter, and the teleprompter says, and you can get results like these working out just 30 minutes a day and eating delicious food. And I thought, that was a lie. I couldn't do that. How did I get here? How did I get to this place where I don't feel good about who I am and my body? I feel like I'm not enough, or I'm too much, if you will. How did I get here where I'm saying things that I don't believe are healthy or helpful for women? And I just said that. I have to, I have to, I have to, I have to step out. And that's what I did. So at the time I had a number one fitness infomercial, and I didn't quit. I call it, quiet quitting. In my mind, I said, I'll never do this again. I didn't make that announcement because I didn't need to. I just politely declined every opportunity that came my way after that, because I knew also that it wasn't the time to tell people what I was experiencing, because I need to make sense of it myself first.
Understood.
Yeah.
It's
And figure out,
so
like, okay, this was my journey, but is it, like, people will still say to me, do you believe in those workout programs? I'm like, yes, I totally believe in those workout programs. And, I created all of them, and I still do a lot of those workouts. But what happened to me, as because I was packaged as the product, that's what, it's separate.
thank you for being so vulnerable and pulling back the curtain here. And I
Yeah.
imagine most people would have just said those lines and,
Mm.
and whatever, but you couldn't. You
Well, I
couldn't.
did say those lines, I'm not gonna lie. I did say those lines, but it didn't sit right with me. And there were enough things that I couldn't say. And I would justify the things that didn't feel like, on that particular shoot. When I said those words, I thought that's a lie. But then the little voice in my head says, but maybe it's true for somebody else. Maybe somebody else can work out 30 minutes a day and get these results. Maybe I'm broken. So that's how I justified in my head, saying, like, okay, I can say this. But it was still enough of a disconnect from who I am and what I authentically believe in, that I knew I couldn't do another one, and I won't.
Who do you think that voice is? Like the devil, ego, your opponent?
That's a good question. I don't know. I guess we have these
Real
other
you.
identities, right? Our childhood, or our inner child. But I guess you'd have to ask Freud. I do hear these conversations. I will, we all do, where you kind of argue with yourself, you rationalize, you dismiss away red flags sometimes, or that little voice. But that little voice has a lot of power to it. And I think it's important that we always turn up that little voice just loud enough to examine it and say, is this legitimate? Is this for real? Is this something I should look at? Should I slow down? Should I pause?
It's so crazy that I had this realization recently that your thoughts, they're going with it without you. So what if you could take a step back and be a witness to your thoughts and realize that you are not your thoughts?
Mm,
And then you can be intentional, so to speak. I see so often people think that whatever they're thinking is what it is. It's not true. Thoughts are not facts.
true. That's true. That's deep.
Deep,
Craig,
real
you're so deep.
my favorite types of conversations. You bring it out of me.
These are the things that because you're a long distance runner. I
Yeah.
mean, you end up being a philosopher. It's
It's
so much time to think.
it's so funny. Nobody's ever said that to me. And I only started running a few years back, and it's interesting. Like what I didn't mention to you before, well, actually I did before my reinvention and after my miserable season, there was the marathon season, and that was like a gateway drug for me because I started to really connect and do my best thinking and figure things out. And essentially, that's when I became the philosopher. And there would be no reinvention without that season. So that's interesting that you brought that up.
Can I tell you a phrase that makes me uncomfortable, is the phrase, reinvention? Because I've
Mm.
heard people will say that sometimes to me. They'll say, "Oh, you've reinvented yourself," and I that always rubbed me the wrong way, and I'll tell you
Why?
why. Because it makes it sound like I invented something. It's like, no, this is who I am. This is who you are, Craig. You didn't invent something new. It's kind of like you've peeled back the layers, and it's the progression, it's the transformation. But I don't know, and I'm not trying to tell you not to use that phrase, but
That's okay.
many people have used it with me, and I'm always like, but I didn't invent anything. If anything, I guess here's why it's all coming to me now. The reason why I'm uncomfortable when somebody says that is because that stage before of who I was when I wasn't myself, doing
Mhm.
the fitness videos, I have now I am myself. So I haven't been reinvented. It's like now I've stepped into who I've always been. And there was just a small little window of time where I was living inauthentically.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right.
Yeah, no, but I can relate to. I think when I think of it, I think of it as an identity. Like I was
Yeah.
that Wall Street guy, I was miserable, and then I like the way you said it, pulled back some maybe fluff and
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
my true essence, my
Yeah.
authentic.
Yeah. It's like you stepped into who you always were.
Yeah,
This is who I've
absolutely.
always been. This is who I've always been. It's just sometimes I think anyone who's listening, you have these moments where you get caught up in something and it's almost like a slippery slope. Sometimes it's like you're dating someone and before you know it, you're looking and you're like, who am I? Like, why do they pull this horrible side of me out of me? And this is not who I am, and so it's like when you recognize like this is not who I am. This doesn't feel authentic. This doesn't feel right. It just isn't the way, this isn't who I am. That's when it's important, I think, to step into what you're supposed to be doing or who you're supposed to be with or away from somebody who isn't healthy for you.
I love it. And I want to change the misconception of what reinvention means because for me, it's not totally changing. It's actually finally, and you kind of just articulated what I've been thinking, is it's finally listening to that tug, what you've been called to do this whole
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
I love it.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
think
so when I did stepped away from fitness, like I said, it was a process of in my mind, I was done that day. In my mind, that was my quitting day, but nobody knew for a couple of years. I just kept quietly every new opportunity, I would just decline it, but my shows were still running on TV. So I still had number one fitness infomercials, even though in my head I was like, I'll never do this again. And that again was just an incredible blessing to be in a position where financially I had the ability to go, I want to know everything about online marketing. I want to teach people how to take advantage of this opportunity. Like I want to help that person. Like I got a text or a DM today from a woman. She said, I'm a full-time teacher and I want to stay at home, or at least I want to have an extra stream of income, and I have no idea what I have that's valuable or how I could make money online. I'm like, anybody can make money online. And so
right.
for me, my desire, my love, my passion for showing people and taking something that's they think is overwhelming and complicated and just breaking down, going like, no, 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 here's step one, just do this, then do this, then do this. Like if you break it down into bite-sized 10-minute tasks, you can do anything. You
100%.
just have to simplify it for people. And so that for me was kind of like a financial position to be in where I was able to develop that skill and figure out like, okay, what does it take to teach people how to do this? And the first step is helping people understand that it's different than it used to be 10 years ago to be an entrepreneur. It's anyone can make money online. And it's also even like changing the conversation around that piece. Like, do I think everyone has what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur and business owner and business leader? I don't. I think that's ludicrous to think everybody does because we all know people who are, no offense, have no business leading anyone, right? But can that person figure out how to buy a pair of Nike dunks and flip them for 112 bucks online? Yeah, everybody and your 12-year-old neighbor has the ability to make extra money online right now. And that's a killer opportunity that I wish more people would get excited about.
I love the way you worded that. Entrepreneurship specifically is not for everybody. And I
No,
have a chapter in the book saying the truth about entrepreneurship. And it's a beautiful thing. There's no ceiling. And me and you have that personality for it. But you got to negotiate the price in advance because there will be adversity.
of course. Yeah, there absolutely will. And I think, learning how to be smart about that. And also as an entrepreneur, you've got to set some clear priorities early. Like what is most important Opportunities will come to you. And if you're a truly creative person who like, the problem isn't you don't have an idea. The problem is you have too many ideas. That can be your Achilles heel. And you just want to do more and more and more. And there's a certain point at which you have to say, okay, this is taking a toll. And yeah, I can do all of these things, but what's more important to me? Seeing my kid, having a relationship with my father who's fighting cancer, being present, or being known. Like what's more important? Do I want to be famous and rich, or do I want people to show up and there's no parking available at my funeral? You know what I mean? Like you got to think about these things
Ooh,
without your ego in place.
that's good. That's real good. You
Yeah.
mentioned the word creative there. I saw you say somewhere when you want to be creative, you work out. So basically, you work out 7 days a week. Is that accurate?
Well, yeah, I mean, I definitely struggled with orthorexia and exercise addiction, part of like, being in the consumer videos.
Wait, that's a
And
thing? Exercise addiction?
oh, yeah.
Wow.
Oh, heavens, yes. And orthorexia, which is like an unhealthy obsession with eating healthy and exercising. Yeah, where it, it's reached a level of addiction when you're declining in you know social settings. You are always thinking about, well, am I going to be able to get my run in? Am I going to be able to get enough miles in? What
Are
kind
you
of
slept?
oils are they going to have? And it's a slippery slope because you want to be healthy, but like at a certain point when it starts to take over your life, and that's where I was. Today I've got a completely different relationship with exercise, but it's still my go-to for being alone, for thinking through things, being creative. I love it. And but today I used to love exercise because of what I was trying to accomplish with my body for the next video. Today, I don't care. I haven't weighed myself in years. I love my body now because I don't have to market it. You know what I mean? I don't have other people telling me there's a problem. But I exercise today because it makes me more confident, gives me better posture. I look younger. I feel stronger. I'm more inspired and creative. I've got more energy, more, better sex. I crave better food. Like it's the ultimate drug. I just have to make sure that I don't take it too far and, get to an addictive state. But it is I find that that's a really common thread with successful entrepreneurs is they exercise regularly.
Could you be on any more fire? I have, if you don't mind me asking, how old are
Yeah,
you?
I'm 54.
54 years young, just getting warmed
That's
up.
right. That's right, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, with that age, I remember it just feels like yesterday that I was like, oh, I shouldn't say that because I'm the youngest person in this circle. And now I find myself saying, like, I'm old enough to be able to say this. Like, I kind of love saying, like, I'm older than you. I don't know if you have if you have a brother, right?
Wow, you did do your homework. I have one sibling, my best friend, my older brother, he's 45.
Okay. So he always got to say, I'm the older brother. Right.
Correct.
And so like, it's like this thing where you're like, which must mean a lot. And so now I'm at the stage where it's like, I can say whatever I want because I'll probably be the oldest person in some rooms anyways. You know what I
Authority.
mean?
Yeah.
Like not that 54 is old or anything, but like, I teach with my son. He's in his 20s and a lot of times we're teaching to 20-year-olds. So I get to be the bossy big sister or, the sassy aunt and tell people what to do.
You're awesome. You have such a good attitude. This is great. I want to make sure I hit this before we land the plane. You talk a lot about ADHD
Yeah.
and you've made it a superpower. And I'm just curious, like, how were you able to cultivate that paradigm shift? And for someone listening that might have it. I don't like to use the word struggling, that might have it,
Sure.
but
Yeah, yeah.
what's a good perspective that they can take from this episode to make it into a positive?
Right. Well, I think personally, it was really very valuable for me to have my brain scanned so that
Mhm.
I could. So I had a SPECT. It's pronounced SPECT, a SPECT scan. I had that done at the Amen Clinic at age.
Dr. Amen? Great
Yeah,
guy.
yeah. And at age 45, and knowing the type of ADHD that I had makes a huge difference. Also, just like seeing where your blood flow is happening when you're concentrating, when you're relaxed, like that. I felt like it explained my whole entire life. My father had his brain scanned at the same time. And he had the same type of ADHD, which it was like, okay, this makes total sense now. I was fortunate enough to be raised again by an entrepreneur who had extreme ADHD. So I never felt bad about the way my brain worked at home. I did in school though. Like it was, I remember being very embarrassed about struggling to grasp certain concepts. I was horribly embarrassed every time, people would say, like, so what'd you get on that quiz? I was like, oh, I know I'm so much smarter than you, but I got a much worse grade. Like in my mind, I always knew I was smarter than all these people, but it just was not showing up in my grades. So it was, again, getting that diagnosis really helped me to make sense of things. However, I also think it's a blessing that I didn't have a diagnosis until age 45 because I was therefore forced to create lots of ways to fit in the world. Like the world doesn't have to conform to you, despite what, Gen Z thinks. You have to conform, like you've got to get along. And so I had to find all these different, I almost want to say, like shortcuts or little ways that I could make things work, even though my
Hacks.
brain didn't work that way. What did you say?
Hacks.
Yeah, I'm not sure what you would call them, but like I found like little ways to,
Strategies
yeah,
to.
hacks, exactly, hacks. Sorry, hacks. Yeah,
Okay.
there.
Yeah.
That's the word. Is the way to hack certain things so that I could get along and I could keep a job and I could be successful and I could show up on time and I could, make the most of it. But it also meant, and I think this is important for people who have ADHD, or if you think you do, first of all, go get a diagnosis. Like, don't let TikTok diagnose you, because if that were the case, everybody would have ADHD because we're all easily distracted. But go get a proper diagnosis, and you can start with your doctor or a neurosurgeon, or you can go to the Amen Clinic, which I highly recommend. And once you have a proper diagnosis, then it's a lifestyle changes and knowing, oh, there's nothing broken about me. This is just how my brain works. It also helped my marriage a lot because my husband is the exact opposite. He's like laser focused, forgets nothing, he doesn't change subjects. He doesn't lose things or forget things or bounce all over the walls. Like, so him understanding how my brain works helps us to communicate better. He doesn't take it personal that he'll say, hey, can you go to the store? We just need this one item, and I'll go to the store and bring home everything but that. He knows I didn't do that intentionally. It's just how my brain works.
That's really
So the
cool.
way that I've used it as a superpower, or the way I think that anyone who's in a creative role or an entrepreneur can use it to their advantage, is if you have the that type of a brain, you're seeing details that other people don't see. And to be successful as an entrepreneur, you have to be able to see patterns before everybody else sees it. The entrepreneur walks in and into a room and they see, everybody else sees furniture, and the entrepreneur goes, I wonder where this was made. I wonder how heavy it is. I wonder how much it costs to ship it. Like our brains just do. We are on another wavelength, but we solve problems. We think outside the box. We see patterns. We're creative. We get excited about getting hyper focused on things, whereas other people might find something boring. Once we get fixated on something, like, look out, I will research circles around you,
Right.
and
Yeah.
that is a real gift. We get so persistent about certain things, and that you have to be persistent to be successful in business.
It's so good. I love every second of this. It's all about perspective too. And I love that, like, now that your husband, now that you guys have awareness of what it is, now you guys have like more of a mutual respect. 'Cause it's not like, oh, why is she behaving like that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And of course, I don't want to use it as an excuse. I think
No,
that's
no.
important too. But
Yeah.
it does really help him to understand, like, and for me to have the confidence to be able to communicate to him. For example, if I guess other people's brain don't work this way, but I can be working on my computer, and if he walks in the room and just wants to have a general conversation about going out to dinner tonight, I feel this like sense of rage coming over me, like I want to murder someone, because in my mind I'm like, I will never ever be able to remember what I was just working on, and I was about to solve all of the world's problems, and you came in here and said something, which, hello, your spouse should be able to do. So, now we have this understanding where he'll come in, he'll say, like, is this a good time? Can I talk to you right now, or do you need to wait? And or do you need to finish that? So it's just like this beautiful respect where I'm like, yes, thank you, let me finish. You know, as opposed to before, I would just like look at him and I wasn't hearing a word he was saying. I was just thinking about how I will never remember what I was just doing and how, what state can I murder him in and not get the death penalty, you know? How dare he try to speak to me, you know what I mean? So it's a mutual respect for the, and really admiration for the way our brains work. Like I really admire the things that he can do, and he also compliments the things that he knows. Like, it's remarkable that your brain thinks that way.
That's awesome. And you mentioned him a couple times in this conversation. It's no secret, you guys have built an empire. That's challenging for someone to do with their significant other. What's been your guys' secret?
Therapy. Yeah, therapy for sure. You know, we weren't great at it to begin with. My husband was a remarkable quarterback. So he's like the guy in charge, the guy used to leading the team. You know, he was like the number one recruited quarterback out of high school when he graduated. He went to UCLA. I met him at Michigan State. And then when we went into business together, I was trying to be the quarterback. And so we would really, you know, butt heads a lot. It took going to therapy to figure out how to, that we weren't in competition against each other. We were on the same team, and how to have that mutual respect, how to stay in your own lane, how to stop talking about business. We would have code words around the kids so that we didn't always, we wanted them to feel like they were the most important thing, not our business. So we would turn business off at 3 p.m. every day when they came home from school, which is hard to do because there's more hours to work and you can make more money, you can be more famous, you can do more things. But you know, we're like, that's all true, but you never get an opportunity to reparent a child. You get one shot. And I think that's a most important thing that, and you know, it wasn't necessarily part of my bio, but it really should be, because it's a thing I think I'm the most proud of, that I'm the best at. And it was always the most important thing, way before any other. And we turned down so many opportunities and appearances, and, you know, because we had the best in the world, the opportunity to raise a child. That's a gift. And we didn't take it lightly. We wanted to do our best. You know, I'm sure we made lots of mistakes, but it's something we were really, really intentional about. It was way more important than anything else.
That was really beautiful.
Thank you.
And like, yes, you could always do one more thing, extend your reach, be a little bit more famous, make a little bit more money, but you get one shot at raising that. The kids only be that age for one time.
Right, right,
And
right.
I'm not a parent yet. Hopefully sooner than later, but that's something that I'm really gonna keep in mind.
Yeah, yeah. And there aren't very many, if I'm being honest, business role models who are equally, I think, credible as parenting role models, but there are a few. I think one of them is Pat Flynn. I think Pat Flynn is a remarkable dad. I mean, there's a few, but there's not many. There's a lot of them who pretend. Talk about inauthentic. You know, they're on. Sorry, no offense, but they're on their fourth marriage. They don't talk to their kids from their first marriage. You know, now they've got kids with their fourth wife, and they take pictures with them when they're home on the weekends once a month. And you know, like, they are using those, in my opinion, they use those kids like for Instagram likes and for part of the brand, but they're really not.
Yeah.
And listen, hey, more, if that's what they've decided to do, that's great. But for us, we just feel like if you're going to have a kid, you have an ethical responsibility to raise someone to be confident, secure, self-sufficient, kind, giving, and who can contribute in some small way to the world. And um, you know, you're not ever going to get it perfect, but I think we need to be far more intentional about that. Like, we spend millions of dollars, billions of dollars on exercise and workouts and getting in shape and Ozempic, and but when's the last time anybody read a parenting book, you know, or took a class or hired a parent coach, you know, hired somebody to help you be a better parent to your teenagers? So yeah, that's a whole nother rant. That's a whole nother podcast.
That's gonna be for the sequel. You're a special cat. I just want you to know that. Like, I know this is just the beginning of the friendship, but I'm so happy that we saved that kind of for the end. Like that, like that's what it's really all about, right? Like, all the other cool stuff is important and it's fun and it's exciting. But being a parent, and it's not the same. But I told you before we went on air, my fiance and I just got a puppy, and like, I just had this level of love, like I haven't
Yes.
felt before. And I know it's going to be good practice for the kids, but it's
It
just,
is. It really is. I don't think you should diminish it at all.
okay.
I really think it's very true. Both my kids just got married and they each have puppies and
Yeah.
dogs, and it shows you how your parent's going to be, or how your partner, I should say, is going to discipline,
Yes.
how consistent they're going to be. It will
Ooh,
show you how your partner deals with stressful moments. It's an animal, it's a child. Like, these things are going to happen.
yeah. So I'm just gonna say this right out. You make me feel comfortable. So my fiance, she's from Ukraine. She's been here since
Uh-huh.
she's 14, but she's a little bit. She has an immigrant mentality. She's a little bit more savage than me.
I love it.
I know when I discipline the puppy, I immediately start feeling bad. It reminds me of my dad because my mom was like the tough one, like don't mess
Yeah.
with me. And my dad would like get mad and then like he'd be like, I'm sorry, blah blah after. But you have
Uh-huh.
to discipline them because you're setting them up, you're building the foundation. I totally get it. But
Dude, binge watch the Caesar Milan videos.
which ones?
Get Caesar Milan on your show.
Who's that?
Caesar Milan. All I want you to do, Craig, tonight is I want you to watch 4 hours worth of Caesar Milan videos, okay? Trust me. You're gonna send me a text. You're gonna be like, girl, we have the best dog on the planet. So he's like the ultimate dog trainer, but he's just so dope. And he's got a great entrepreneurial story. Really interesting. Spent a lot of years on TV. Oh, it's a fascinating story. And I
Well,
haven't heard him on a podcast, like maybe one, kind of telling that story. But so that
why
would
don't
be
you have them on yours?
a
You have a massive show.
yeah, maybe we will. I don't know. Yeah, I would definitely fangirl out if I had him on.
Okay. We'll land the plane with this final nugget. You're really passionate about entrepreneurship, as am I. One thing that I see you talk about, which I think is so important because I see a lot of young aspiring entrepreneurs get tripped up with this, and that's comparison syndrome. And I always like to say, like, don't compare your season one to someone else's season 10, whatever the case may be. But especially with social media now, it's very easy to get lost in
Yeah.
that. What is something someone can do to maybe handle that a little bit more productively?
You have to have blinders on. You can't be following all the people. I know to some extent it can inspire you. So pick like one or two people who every part of them inspires you. Don't follow somebody. This is my personal opinion. Don't follow someone who you think is killer in business, but they're like a douche in real life, or they treat their spouse terribly, or just unless you resonate with who they are 100%, at least what they're presenting, don't follow them. And then follow a lot fewer people, and then pay attention to the fact that the steps that you need to follow may be very different from the steps that they followed. Have changed. I always tell people, you can't do, if you're trying to grow your social media the way to my level, don't do what I do, because it won't work. My social media is huge because I've been doing this for 100 years. Like, that's why. But if I started over tomorrow, I wouldn't do what I'm doing. You got
Right.
to niche down. You have to know what is working today. And sometimes when we're looking at other people, we assume that what they're doing is why they're there, and that's not necessarily true. Like, I just see everybody now wants to start a podcast, but you don't have a website. You don't have a freemium. You don't know what you're selling. You don't know what your brand is. You haven't even niched down. Why are you starting a podcast? Because Gary Vee has a podcast. Like, chill out. Like, no, you need to know the order to build a business foundation. And it's not sexy. It's not fun. You can't, like, people don't ever say to you when you're at dinner, hey, so how many people do you have on your email list? But you know what? If I know how many people you have on your email list, that tells me a lot more about your bank account than how many people you have following you. I don't care how many people have following you. If I know how many people you have actively on your email list, then I know a little bit about your bank account. But these are the things that, no one pays attention to because they're always looking at what's popular in social media, but it's a bunch of BS. Like, understanding the business foundation stuff doesn't take that long to set up. Like, we're talking like maybe a month. But you should spend 80% of your time growing your business and 20% of your time expanding that with social. And people are usually doing the opposite.
I couldn't agree more. You just nailed it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Everybody wants, I'm just thinking like everybody wants to look shiny or sexy,
Yeah.
but you got to have the foundation, the framework.
Yeah. And the copying is what gets people in so much trouble. Like, all these people like they're trying to start their own beauty brand because the Kardashians did. Now they're all, just they just start copying each other, but they don't know why, and they actually don't even know if the thing that they're doing is making them any money. It's just like, oh, they're doing that, so I need to do that. And it'll get you in a heap of trouble. You're going to feel overwhelmed. So I say, look less, find one or two business mentors, follow their steps. Like find somebody you can plug into. The biggest short, there are no shortcuts, but like the most direct route is to find the right mentor or teacher, invest in them, stay loyal to them, build the thing. Like they will save you headache, they will save you time, they will save you money.
Tell
They
me taxes.
and the ultimate coach, business coach, they want to connect you because they look good if you look good. So they want you to succeed. Like it's like paying the most renowned person to promote you and to root for you and to connect you and to network for you. And so I think probably one of the biggest mistakes I made was thinking I could figure a lot of these things out myself. But as
Him.
soon as I started investing in experts, I was like, oh wow, they're telling me all of this.
Yeah.
Oh my God, they just saved me 15 years.
Right. I couldn't agree more. And one thing that I did when I reinvented myself or pulled back some layers is I realized that I don't know what I don't know. And that
Yeah.
was the best realization that I ever had. And I started surrounding myself with people that were necessarily better, but were a little bit further ahead. And it's
Yeah.
contagious. And you can and also something you just said that sticks out is like find one or two and stay loyal and stick with them. So many times like, oh, well, I tried him for 3 months. Let me try her. And it's
Yeah.
like everybody has a different approach.
Yes. And that can really confuse you.
Yeah.
Hey, can I ask you a question before we're done?
Sure.
So I noticed that you have a lot of female guests on your show.
I do, yeah.
Is that intentional?
Um, I guess so.
Well, it's great. I think it's unique. I think it's smart. I think there's so many big entrepreneurial type mindset podcasts out there, and they tend to cater to the dudes, and
Yeah.
we miss a lot of great conversations with female entrepreneurs and thought leaders. And you've got some great shows, and you're a great interview.
Thank you so much. That means a
Absolutely.
lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the real ROI. Thank you so much for saying that. I think I know the answer to this. The audience is breaking out. They're very loyal and engaging. We're about 5 million now. What's the best way for all of them to support you? What are you most excited about?
I'm most excited about my podcast because we just launched it as a video on YouTube, which I really
Nice.
resisted. What's that?
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, I resisted it for a long time because I'm like, it's so much work. I got to like put on makeup. I like just throwing on a hat, not having to be on camera. But now I just really like why I love video. I love video. It's such a faster way to connect with people is when you can actually see them and not just hear them. So now people can do both. So you can either follow the show on YouTube or listen to it wherever you listen to podcasts. It's called The Chalene Show, is my lifestyle podcast, and Build Your Tribe is the business podcast that I do with my son Brock.
And also for the audience, if you're feeling frisky, leave her a 5-star review as well.
Hey.
Chalene, hang out for 1 sec. I want to connect to you after. I want you to know the definition of being in alignment, abundance, and unbelievable energy. I could personally guarantee your best is yet to come. Keep on spreading your wings and leaving your mark on this world. So much love and respect for you. Thank you so much for stopping by and dropping these priceless, juicy, authentic nuggets today.
I love it. Thanks for having me, Craig. I really had a great time.
I mean, I could talk to you all day.
That was fun. That was fun.
Let's definitely stay
Your
connected.
fiance is from the Ukraine.
She was born in Ukraine, yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. My daughter just married. She was the first non-Russian Ukrainian person to marry into her husband's family. It was
From
a
Ukraine?
really, really big deal.
Wow. And he's Ukrainian?
His mother's Ukrainian. His father is Russian,
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah. So and they live in upstate California or Northern California, and it's just a really, really tight knit community. Like they only marry within the Russian community, Russian Ukrainian community. And so
Yep.
my son-in-law was the first one to introduce a non-Russian Ukrainian girl into the mix, and that was
That's a big
interesting.
deal.
Yeah, it was a really big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it's different culture, but
Yeah.
they're
100%.
awesome, awesome, awesome people.
100%. Is there anything else I could do off the top of your cup to support you other than build a
Yeah,
friend?
no, just tell me when the show's going to come out, and I'll be sure to promote.
Can we stay connected?
Of course, yeah. Give me here. Send me a text.
Okay. Do you have your phone on you or no?
Yes, I do. No, I don't.
My number, or you can just give me yours, whatever's good for you.
Yeah, here's my number. It's